Hey guys, thank you so much for joining in today on this episode of How to Pivot. I am really excited. I just had a great conversation. I know you're going to get so much out of this conversation that I had with Carol Maloney-Scott. She has been a recruiter and in talent acquisition for over 20 years. She was in corporate America for that long. She has a master's degree in course development and is a certified career coach. And what I love about her is that after 20 years, she decided to leave corporate America and go out on her own, become an entrepreneur in the career coaching business. And she mastered that. And she actually then created a certification for other people, specifically HR and recruiters that want to do the same thing. So she has different coaching platforms and certifications that she's created to help other, specifically women, go from corporate America to having their own career coaching business. And she's written a book that goes along with it called Smart Chick's Guide to Career Happiness. And she is just awesome. She shares so many good tips on how to make that transition for someone, she and I, we're both in our 50s. So it's something that I think a lot of listeners who have been in their career for a while and are maybe stalling or, unsure of whether they should make a move, after being in their career for so long. I think this will really give you valuable information and inspiration to know that it's never too late to pivot and try something different and get that support, along the way. So I think the conversation you'll learn and find some really valuable nuggets from that. So stay tuned and listen in. Well, welcome, Carol. I am so glad that you are joining me. And as I mentioned, you're one of my first guests on the How to Pivot podcast. So I'm so looking forward to our discussion and learning more about you and helping all our listeners right now pivot to something that's going to be better for them. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I feel so honored to be like one of the first guests like that. I love to be one of the first anythings. So that's
I know.
Really fun. Thank you.
And of course. And I found you on LinkedIn of all places, because that's where especially recruiters and HR professionals were on there all day long. And I think it was a video about your career coaching. It had popped up. I think maybe we were connected by someone, but that's always, the power of LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw you and just really everything that you were saying resonated. I'm like, I need to reach out to her. And we had a great conversation probably 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Just about, recruiting and job coaching and that transition from working in corporate America to transitioning to having your own business and your own career coaching business. And the timing, I think, is so perfect for our conversation that we're going to have, because there's so many people, HR and recruiters and specifically, that have been working in corporate America that are very in demand right now. But sometimes, they experience burnout. There's certain things with corporate recruiting that sometimes people get into it, and over a long period of time, they realize, or sometimes even a short period, they realize something's missing. Like, I went into it to help people, and it's turned out to be maybe something different. So wanted to, we'll get into that. But first, before we do that, give our listeners just a little bit of background on your experience in recruiting and HR and how you transitioned and what you're doing now.
Sure. No, awesome. I know we could talk about this stuff for hours upon it.
Totally.
Like, can we do an 8-hour podcast? No, that's ridiculous. But yeah, so I started out actually, well, I mean, if we want to go really far back, which let's not get too crazy, but I actually had a retail management career before I went into recruiting, which that's how old I am. That actually the previous 20 years before that, I actually did another thing for 10 years. And that was a nightmare, but that's a story for another day. But so I was in talent acquisition for about 20 years. I started out in agency recruiting in talent acquisition, and that was a crazy time. Agency recruiting is very competitive, very sales oriented. So while it was fun to get started there, I didn't want to really stay there, probably stayed too long. Moved into corporate recruiting, which I definitely liked better. But I always felt like I wanted to be an agent of the individual and not an agent of the company. And that was something that I just, once I had that in my head, that tagline, which I didn't realize I was creating a tagline, but once I had that in my head, it was so hard for me to let that go, because I always really just wanted to help the candidates more, or the employees, the internal employees, navigating their careers, and I'm not saying I wasn't interested in helping the company, because obviously as an agent of the company, I did want the company to be successful. And, obviously that's what makes the world go round, right? Is the, companies making money, employing people, that's all good. But I just felt like I just always wanted to really help people. So I went through the whole, recruiting, moved into talent acquisition operations. There I was really able to do more training and coaching. I was actually able to do some internal career coaching. I went back to school and got a master's degree in career development, toyed with the idea of going like the university career center route. Never really pursued that, really wanted to start my own business, was afraid to do it for years, so really put off a lot of my dreams. About 6 months before the pandemic started, which, good thing I didn't have a crystal ball. I quit my day job to pursue the business full time. And I had started it probably about 6 months to a year before then on a part-time basis. And then just decided I was going to quit. And jump into it full time. So I'm really glad that I didn't know the pandemic was coming, because I'm sure my husband and I would have said, wow, not a great time to quit your job. So I'm glad I didn't know, because it's been interesting and exciting and, difficult at times, and challenging, but also just really great. So I'm just glad I didn't know.
Yeah. What was that final straw? Was there one, thing that happened, or was it just a compilation of wanting to do it for so long and finally, making that decision?
Yeah. Well, one thing that happened, and this probably sounds silly to a lot of people, but maybe not. I turned 50 in 2018, the summer of 2018. And that was really very pivotal for me. And I think that was when I really started thinking hard about it. And then in 2019, right at the beginning of 2019, I attended a program, a retreat called Soulful Time Management, taught by a woman, Dr. Elaine Kazaya, who's become a good friend of mine now here in the Richmond area. And Elaine is an organizational psychologist, and she teaches this program. And it's not like a corporate-y kind of thing at all. It's really much more like personal development. But anyway, I was so motivated in this program to change my life, like to do a thing and really do something, that once it got in my head, then I just said, I have to figure out how to do this, so I just really spent a good part of 2019 working on my finances, working on, just kind of like plotting, planning, plotting, also trying to soften my husband up for the blow of explaining to him how I was quitting my job. Because I wasn't going to ask permission. I was going to tell him that I'm doing it. So I really needed to explain to my very pragmatic engineer husband how I was going to do this wild thing. So yeah, I think it was a turning point. My son also graduated from college in 2019. And, and I kept saying, he's off the payroll now, he got his own job, his own apartment, his own, I launched him into the world. I think that was another big catalyst. I felt like I was no longer, responsible for him financially, and I felt a little bit more empowered to be a little bit more bold. I think
I
just
love that. I love
Yeah.
that. I think that's why maybe you resonated with me so much, because I turned 50 a couple years ago. And I think there is that pivotal time that you start thinking like time's kind of not running out, but you better, if there's something you want to do, you better go do it,
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's the whole reason with this podcast is that there's so many people I think that hold on to things, especially,
Mhm.
people that have been in their careers for a long time like you and I have been, and you go, is it really necessary? Do I really need to do this? And then something keeps calling to you or something
Right.
happens in your life where you're like, "You know what? Like I can't not do this," you know?
Right. Right. Yeah.
So
Like I
kudos
kept
to
saying,
you.
like, I don't feel like, it's all over tomorrow. Like, oh my God, I'm 50. I'm so old. But, you know, 50 is not 25, so you just, yeah, I started to really think about it and say, like, if not now, when, when am
Right.
I going to do this? When am I going to take this
Yeah.
leap? So,
And I love that because that's what, I want to encourage other people that might be hearing this that, age should not be a determining factor for making big changes and that, age is just a number and you can do anything you want to do. You just need
right.
to plot it out and, have the
Yeah.
courage to do it. So I know you're going to inspire people even, just with that. So you decided to make that change and leave corporate America and then what happened? You started your own coaching program and got certified or how did that
Yeah,
what's
so I just started my own coaching program. I wrote a book called The Smart Chick's Guide to Career Happiness. And that kind of served as my framework for my one-on-one coaching program because I really wanted to put some kind of a frame around it. Like what am I really offering people? Like what am I really doing with them? Because I didn't want to just have it be like, well, we're having a nice chat, or like it's like being in therapy and we're in therapy for 20 years. We just keep talking about our problems over and over. I wanted it to be very actionable, and I felt like I needed to put some kind of parameters around it. So both for myself and for my clients. So I wrote that book and started working with people, and got my website up, and did all the business things, right, that we need to do to get our
yeah.
business set up. Consumed a tremendous amount of content from business coaches and people, and joined all the things, and before COVID. I joined several different professional women's business organizations here in my local area and started going to meetings and just connecting with other women in that space because I'd been in the corporate world for my whole life and everybody I knew was also in it. I didn't have there are no entrepreneurs in my family, no entrepreneurs in my inner circle. I just didn't know people who were going to, so I had no support at all. Like, I mean, I had emotional support. There were people who believed in me, thought, yay, you're doing a thing, good for you.
Yeah.
But they didn't do it, right? They didn't have that experience. So I didn't have that type of support. Yeah, so I did all that stuff and, really started doing a lot of one-on-one coaching. And then, of course, COVID hit, which was super fun. And, that really knocked me back for a minute. I have to say for the first like few weeks, month or so after March, when that happened, I really just wanted to crawl under my bed and hide. And I think a lot of us did.
Mhm.
I thought, what am
Yeah.
I going to do now? Because there was just such a widespread panic, and so many people were losing their jobs, but yet those people were very afraid to spend any money on anything, let alone, coaching. So yeah, so I really had to think about like, how am I going to pivot this, right? I just started it, but yet I have to pivot it because I wasn't going to give up. I wasn't going to say, oh, forget it. This is not a time to be doing this because I really feel like times of huge change, whether it be social change or, financial change, whatever, political change, times of great change need people, to lead the way, to guide people. Like we need coaches, we need mentors, we need those people the most at those times. And even though people may not realize that, or they may be afraid to utilize that, I still felt like, no, this is a time where I can make a really big impact and I need to figure out how to do that. I need to figure out how to stick with it. So I tried a couple of different things. I started a Facebook group and, trying to bring women together. And, I did a lot of, I started doing a lot of what we're doing right now. Well, on the video piece, obviously
Yeah.
this is a podcast, but right now, but I started doing a ton of Facebook Lives. I started just doing a lot of things to try to bring people together because obviously early in the pandemic, that was huge, right? During the lockdown and when people weren't able to go out and do the things they normally did, they needed human connection. So I started to do a lot of that stuff. But then I had the idea, because I was getting very bold, I had the idea, why don't I just start my own program teaching people to be career coaches? And, I think that there were obstacles to that. Some people said to me, well, like, what are you going to teach them? I said, well, I'm just going to teach them to do what I do. And I'm going to teach them about my framework for working with clients. And, it's really successful and it's helping people. And, I can help other people who were in my position in corporate America in, recruiting or related roles to figure out how they can do this too. And then so that was kind of like the practical, but then the more visionary piece of it for me was, I'm only one person. I can only help so many people with their careers. A lot of people need help, right? So to me, training other people to become career coaches really helps me, and to spread my vision of career happiness, because I really think that we have a lot of very unhappy people in this world, and in this country, right? We have a lot of unhappy people. And I think a lot of unhappiness does stem from poor choices, unfortunate situations, in career. We spend many hours of our adult lives working, and many people settle for much less than what they really want because they need to earn money to live, right? So they really allow themselves to be put in those boxes of unhappiness. So I realize it's a lofty goal, but I really want to, just elevate career happiness in general and make it something that is more of a priority for people.
Mm-hmm.
Make
So
it something
what?
that's more of a priority.
Yeah. And so I love what you've done because you've actually done it yourself. And now you're helping other people, specifically like HR professionals and recruiters,
Right.
correct? Leave their corporate job and actually create their own business and own coaching. So, how does that work? Like the curriculum that you have, tell me a little bit more for people that might
Sure.
be like, hey, this sounds like something I need to, to look into.
Sure. So the curriculum is really three parts. So the first part of it is coaching skills. Now, of course, I did not invent coaching. So coaching skills were, that was the part where I really had to leverage what I've learned and, what I've studied, about coaching, from respected sources, the kind of the historical, this is what coaching is, this is what coaching isn't.
Mm-hmm.
So really that part of the program is really, me teaching coaching skills, not that I created, but that, formed the framework for like, what does coaching even mean? Like, how do we really coach people? And how is it different from counseling and therapy? How is it different from just being someone's mentor? How is it different from consulting, right? Like, what are all these different interventions and how are they different? And what is coaching? So how do we coach people for maximum performance? So that's the first part of the program. The second part of the program is me teaching my actual framework for working with clients that I outline in my book. So really then what I'm doing is teaching that program for working with clients, but there's a twofold benefit. So one, the person learns how to go through this program to teach others about it, but they also get coached because they're going through the program. They're kind of
Right.
going through coaching with me. So they're actually getting coached and learning how to coach at the same time. And actually, a number of my students have actually changed day jobs while in the program because they've actually used what they've learned to make their own situations better in the short term while they, think about developing their business in the long term, which was really interesting. And honestly, when I first designed the program, I didn't even think about that was going to be a byproduct, but it has been. And then the third piece of it is the actual business building piece of it, where I really help them to now apply what they've learned. There are a lot of career coaching training programs. And of course, I researched everything that's out there. And there's some really good programs, but I find that what most of them do is they don't really teach somebody how to quickly go from learning how to do it to actually doing it, right? To actually implementing it and making money. Because it's all fun and great and good to learn how to do it and learn the skills, but implementing it in the real world and actually starting the business can feel very, very daunting to a lot of people and scary and just off-putting and complicated. And, it sounds like, how am I going to do this? So my program seeks to help people to go from learning the skills to implementing them in as little time as possible with as little investment of time and money to get started, because I very much feel like getting started is not half the battle. It's probably 90% of the battle, because once you're moving, right? I always say the only thing I learned in physics class, because I'm not a science person and I was forced to take physics in high school, very bad situation. The only thing I learned in physics was objects in motion stay in motion. So I just feel like once you get in motion and you get something started, now you can figure out where you want to take it. You can make mistakes, and that's okay. You can learn from them. You can refine it, finesse it, right? Change it, grow it, make it what you want it to be. But you have to start it in order to do that. So the goal of my program is to teach you how to do it, and then teach you how to actually do it and make some money and get yourself out there.
Yeah. So I know, we talked about like kind of the ideal person if they're hearing this, would be maybe someone from HR or a recruiting background. But what other characteristics do you think make an ideal coach and someone that, should
Yeah.
consider maybe this is another option for
Yeah,
them?
that's a great question. So I do feel that people who have a recruiting or some other talent acquisition HR background, or even someone who has a leadership position in a company where they manage people and they develop their employees, maybe they're part of the hiring process, right? They hire a lot of people, they interview a lot of people, they select a lot of people, they're really involved with that. Those people would be really great, I think, as well. I think knowing what goes on behind the curtain, so to speak, right, is really important. It's very valuable knowledge, right? So that's kind of the knowledge piece of it. But as far as like other things, I think a genuine desire to help people is definitely important, because it's not just about making money, it's about helping people. And if you don't want to really sit down with people and dig into their problems and hear their stories, and you don't really want to do that, this is not the thing for you. This is a highly people-y business.
Yeah.
So, if you're looking like if you're tired of recruiting because you don't want to have to talk to people all day anymore, like don't do this. Like
Right.
go into analytics or something. Don't do this. Because yeah, a genuine desire to help people and make an impact on people's lives, I think, is important. Another thing is to be very open-minded and curious. You're going to hear, people are going to tell you some things, right? Maybe some things you don't agree with, maybe some things you don't like to hear, maybe some things that are triggering for you, like in your own life experience or whatever, right? So being open-minded and curious about what makes people tick, I think, is very important. And finally, you need to be a lifelong learner. You need to realize that even if you do my program, somebody else's program, whatever it is, you bring your recruiting experience, things are changing all the time, right? So what was good advice in the marketplace, or good counsel, a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago or whatever, isn't necessarily what's working today. And it really does change all the time. So in working with our clients, you really need to be somebody who is prepared to keep up with what's going on, right? So that you don't let your skills and knowledge become stale, because the market's changing constantly.
Right, right, and that even it goes down to people, how they interview,
Right.
like video interviewing versus, in-person interviews and resumes. So does a career coach, would that go hand in hand with that? Or is your program and just career coaching in general more about deciding and finding, a new path versus like the tactical
That's a,
resumes,
that's a great
that
question.
that
Yeah.
kind of stuff?
It's whatever you want it to be. And that's what's
Mhm.
so great about that's one of the things I think that is so great about career coaching. And it's funny that you asked that, because a lot of people who are interested in my program will say, okay, I want to be a career coach, but I'm not sure exactly what that means. Does that mean I have
Right.
to help somebody write their resume? Does that mean I have to do this? Does that mean I have to do that? What it means is you can do whatever you want, because you're going to choose a niche of people you want to work with, right? And then you're going to choose what you want to do with those people, right? What you want to offer them. And then you're going to design that offer, right? And then you're going to design your marketing around that offer, right? So there are some career coaches who love to do the tactical piece. They're really good at helping people with their resumes. They're really good at helping people hone their interview skills, do mock interviewing, things like that. Salary negotiation, right? Like that whole job search process. They love doing job search process with people, and that's what they do. There are other career coaches that don't want anything to do with that, and they really want to help people who just want to figure out what they want to do, right? So that's more of like the career changers, right? The people who are
Mhm.
trying to figure that out. Maybe they want to help people who are coming back into the workforce. They're, parents who've taken some time off with children, or maybe they're transitioning out of the military into the civilian world. Some people want to work with recent college graduates and help them to learn how to understand the job market and how to position themselves, and figure out what they want to do with their degree. For every as much diversity as there is of humans on the planet, that's how much diversity there really can be in this. So you can really find the piece of the career workspace that interests you or that you feel you have the most skill in. You can find whatever that piece is and you can package that. There are some people that just do interviewing coaching, like that's their whole business. They're the interview coach. Or I've even seen people who their whole job is teaching people salary negotiation. Literally, that is all that they just do, that one piece.
Wow.
So it really depends on, I think there's three things when choosing your niche. Who do you want to help? So who are you passionate about helping? What is your knowledge base, right? So do you know how to do it? And is there a need for that in the marketplace? And if it passes those three criteria, then it's a good plan. Then it's a good niche for you. I've had students go through the program who have chosen niches that, could I help people in that niche? Yeah. But am I the best person? No. I have one, Sarah Alamo, who I interviewed a couple weeks ago on my live stream. Sarah works with, she's in recovery, alcoholism recovery, and she works with women in recovery with career coaching, right?
Love
career
that.
coaching with people well, I'm not in that space, so I don't have her unique knowledge of that population, right? So I have another student who has a young child with autism, and she chose for her niche working with parents of special needs children and their unique career challenges. Again, I don't have that background. So am I the best person to help those people? No, right? So there's as many ideas as people of who you can serve and what you can serve them.
I love that. Yeah, because you have to enjoy, I think you have to understand, where your niche is coming from. So
Right.
having that background definitely, I'm sure, helps. And then I love what you said too. There has to be a need for it. I think sometimes we forget, we want to love what we do, but there also has to be that piece where is this marketable? Are there people that are going to, need this? So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
you need all three. What do you think the biggest challenges are when someone's changing, careers and going into career coaching? What do you think are the biggest, things that they have to face over the first year?
I think some of it is just truly confidence, that putting yourself out there, because you need to be doing video, you need to be writing articles, you need to be writing posts. Maybe you need to have some unpopular opinions about things that you need to share with people. You're putting yourself out there. Some people will love what you have to say. There's always people that won't, right? And that's just the way it is. And, anybody that puts themselves in even the public eye, even in the littlest bit, right? I mean, I'm not a celebrity, but I put myself in the public eye, and that some people will agree with me and some people won't, right? So I think confidence around that and just putting yourself out there and, realizing that you do have a message, you do have something to share, and it's important, and you need to just go ahead and do it. I think another thing is, what does success look like? We were talking about that before the call, before we started recording.
Yeah.
What does success look like? It needs to be defined by the individual. And I think a lot of people, like for instance, some of my friends who aren't in entrepreneurial space, when I quit my job to start doing this full time, they immediately wanted to know, like, well, are you making as much money as you were in your job yet? Now, did you do it now? How about now? And it's like, okay, that's not necessarily, yes, that's a measure of success for sure. And, eventually, yes, we want to get to that point, but that's not the only measure of success. And not everyone even needs to do that immediately. Not everyone even really wants to do that immediately, right? It really depends on what does success look like for you. Some people actually like their day job and they want to keep working in their day job for a while longer. And they want to do this part-time. Like they don't want to replace their income, or maybe they just want extra income. They're saving for their children's education. They're saving for some special things they want to do. They want that, it's their mad money, it's their vacation money, it's whatever, it's their retirement fund. They want to buy a bigger home. They want to buy a vacation home. I don't know, whatever it is, right? Some kind of goal. And then other people want to hit it really hard. Yeah. And they want to figure out how do I make $1 million, but replacing your corporate income immediately or making $1 million or whatever that number is not everyone's measure of success, right? So I think you really have to look at, if you're a new coach, blocking out the noise, because once you become a coach, I always say you're like a little lamb to the slaughter, because now all the business coaches and all the people that want to teach you about how to make money, they descend upon you like locusts, and they send you emails and they send you their programs and they want you to join their mastermind, and they want, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, some of that stuff is good, some of it isn't, and it's hard to learn how to sift through all of it. That's why I said I was like a little lamb to the slaughter, because I was confused in the beginning. But there's nothing wrong with that, and you need help and you need information, but it can be overwhelming because it's very easy to say, okay, well, apparently based on the internet and social media, everybody sees this as the measure of success. We see this,
Right.
10K months, 6 figures, 7 figures, whatever these 20K a month, whatever these numbers are, right? And then we think, oh, wait, I'm not making that yet, or I don't have that yet, or, oh, I better get that, And again, money is great. I love money. I'm not saying it's not a good thing to have high money goals, but it can put a lot of pressure on you. And sometimes it can make you try to do things too quickly, too frantically, make decisions about your business before you're ready to make them. And, we also talked about burnout a little bit, and sometimes I think that's where a lot of the new entrepreneur burnout comes from. Like, we say, oh, we're a failure because we didn't reach like somebody else's definition of success as quickly as we thought we would. So now we're a failure.
Right. Or we put that on ourselves. I know
Right.
I personally do that all the time. I sometimes have this set timeline. Like, I need to launch this. I need to start doing this. I've been procrastinating too long. So I'm sure in this process, you need to give yourself a little grace
Yes,
and
that's the word.
yeah, like really give yourself some grace, and you're learning something and applying it in a totally different way. Even if you have been recruiting or in HR or talent acquisition, it's something new and different, and you're now creating something, that's your own. So it might take a little bit longer than anticipated. But like you said, Carol, I think it's a good idea. And I'm sure you have this in your program where they identify like what's truly important, like what, yeah, as I'm, plotting this out, what do I want it to look like? What do I want it to feel like? Like, what is success going to feel like for me right now? And that changes, throughout your lifetime. So maybe it was one thing, years ago, and now it's something different. But I think that's important. I love what you said too about the confidence piece, because I think for
Mhm.
anyone, I think there is a stat out there that most people think about changing jobs for like 6 months before they actually get either the courage, or they feel like either they're so burnt out that they throw their arms up and say, I've had it. Or they get to that, point where they're like, I'm finally ready. But there's a lot of things I think someone right now can do,
Mhm.
if they're contemplating or thinking about it, even with that confidence piece. And that would be just start practicing. Would you say, like, you were talking about you need to get yourself out there and start, using video and doing things that are a little bit uncomfortable. And I think for any pivot, whether it's career coaching or anything else, I think the more people that you can just start to practice that and practice that confidence building. So when they're tackling something new, you're able to have that confidence going into anything.
Yeah, it's right. It's a building process. And it's funny because I do videos now, like with absolutely no hesitation whatsoever. Like, I don't care at all. And of course I get myself looking the best I can, it's for what best I can with what's going on here at this point in my life. But I
You
do the
look
best I can.
amazing.
But but I don't hesitate anymore at all. I don't care about doing video. When I first started this business, I said, and I was told by a lot of people, like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But I told people, I'm not doing video. Like, I actually said that to many people. I was like, I'm not
Wow.
doing video.
And
And then I had people say, okay, you're going to have to do video. I was like, no, I'm not doing video. Right. So there's a running joke in my family, because my husband and my son and my stepdaughter, and they're in their 20s, so adult children, but they all love to take pictures and videos. They're all like crazy with it, right?
mhm,
And my husband especially with the videos. And they're always filming everything.
right.
So like there are so many family videos that start off with me screaming, "Are you filming me?" Because I hate it. We're on the boat, my hair's in a messy ponytail, I'm all sweaty, my husband's filming me. I'm like, I don't want to see this ever. Like, or whatever. Everything we do, I'm like, oh my God, you're filming me. So I've always hated that. I don't really mind having my picture taken as much because I feel like, I can pose for that. But I've
Yeah.
always hated video of me. Like, I don't even want to see it. So when I first started this business, I bought the little ring light thing, which I have,
Mhm.
the
Yeah,
camera.
got that.
Yeah. So I bought my first little ring light and camera, right?
Yeah.
And we got it. And my husband and I were setting it up. And he's like, all right, well, let's try this, right? And I tried it with my phone and I recorded something and I said, oh, this is not going to work. I look like a complete weirdo. I was like, I cannot do this. And he's like, you look fine. I'm like, no. He's like, well, that's how you look. I'm like, well, then I look like a weirdo and I don't want to do this. So, but I really had a huge hurdle with getting over it, and I'll be 54 in July. And I mean, I think when you're older, especially, it's even more challenging, but it's not only older people that have any self-conscious feelings about their appearance either, right? There's many younger people, of course, that
Mhm.
have that as well, right? And I think we all do. Like, we all think, oh, people are looking at me, they're watching me, oh my goodness, what are they thinking about me? What are they
Mhm.
saying about me? And you have to learn to say, like, I don't care about that because the message that I have to share is more important than that.
Mhm.
And it does take some practice. So yes, I think, you know, anybody can start doing live streams. Anybody can start recording short videos of themselves and putting out content. Anybody can start posting about the things they want to post about, that are pertinent to what they want to teach about. Anybody can start a newsletter on LinkedIn and just start sending it out to people and, get a following that way. There is so many ways where you can begin to test the waters. And I think that's a really good thing to do. Yeah, to decide if it's what you really want to do. And yeah, and not put so much pressure on yourself, like, oh, it has to be 6 figures in 6 months or 6 figures in 6 weeks or whatever. You see some of this stuff people offer, like, go from zero audience to 10,000 followers in 4 weeks or whatever. Like, what? Like, what are you doing? So you have to realize a lot of that stuff is just hype, right? A lot of what we see on social media isn't real.
Yeah, and yeah. And that's how I found you. I think you were doing like a live LinkedIn and I thought
Mhm.
like good for her. Gosh, like cuz even me, I mean, I'm on video, not a lot right this second, but I will be a lot more. But yeah, doing a live, the thought of that, I'm still like, "Ooh, I can," that would make me a little nervous. So when
All
I
right.
saw
Well, you need to be a guest on my live stream then.
okay, so let's do that. But yeah, and it's not any yeah, it's like you just have to get over your head. Really, it's like all in your
Yeah.
head, you know?
Mhm.
So, yeah, so good for you because that's how I found you, and I'm sure there's so many people that, watch you, on LinkedIn because you're one of the few that actually do it, in the grand scheme
Right.
of things.
Right.
So, yeah, so anyone listening, I think that's the homework is you need to get out of your comfort zone a little bit with
Mhm.
video or do something that's gonna put yourself out there and share something that, you have knowledge in. Well, good, Carol. How can people find you and what else? Because I know, like you said, we could talk for like 8 hours, so you're gonna have to come back
Sure.
on because there's so many other things I wanna ask you
So many
about,
things to talk about.
but
Yeah.
but what are a couple things? Because I know you have a book out, you have your career coaching, so just, share with us, like, where people can find you and what other things they should know as far as, like, services and books
Sure.
and stuff
Sure.
that you have.
Sure. Well, thank you. Yeah. So the Smart Chicks Guide to Career Happiness is available in print, Kindle, and audiobook, which is really fun. I had somebody do it, and I promise I'm not the one reading it, so you don't have to listen to
That's
my
awesome.
voice for that long because I think that's too much of my voice for anyone to handle. So I had a person make that for me. So that's really fun. And let's see, I have two Facebook groups. One is called the Smart Chicks Career Club, and that is geared more towards corporate women and people who are really looking for a job, in the corporate world. And then I have another one called Aspiring Career Happiness Coaches, which is for people who are interested in becoming career coaches. And then on LinkedIn, I do, and also in those private Facebook groups. But I do on Mondays, at 1 p.m. Eastern, I do a live stream that is called Career Chat Live, which is directed towards corporate women. And then I do one on Tuesdays at 1 that is more directed at aspiring coaches. So I do, and I have a newsletter on LinkedIn, and I do all the things. I also have a podcast. So I have a lot of things. So if you just like Google me, you'll find a million things. But my business is called Career Happiness Map Coaching. So careerhappinessmap.com is my website. There is a contact tab on there where you can send me an email through the website. And, just on LinkedIn, I'm happy to connect with everybody and anybody. If you send me a LinkedIn connection request, I'm totally going to accept it. And a message, I'm totally going to answer you. LinkedIn is where I probably hang out most of the time now because, that's where the career talk is, right? That's where the career stuff's happening. So that's pretty much where I hang out. I'm still doing one-on-one coaching. And I am doing, of course, my certified career happiness coach program, which is enrolling on an ongoing basis. You can enroll anytime. And there is also other, external support with that as well. We have a private Facebook group for that. And, I do interact with the people in the program. So it's not just like a course and you never see me. We also do bi-weekly group coaching classes with that program as well. So you definitely do get some, some actual support beyond just the course piece of it itself.
That's awesome.
So that's really it. So anybody has any questions about anything, I'm always happy to talk about career. I love to hear people's career stories. Yeah, like I said, I could talk about it all day. And love to hear what people are doing and other people's ideas about career happiness.
That's amazing. And I'll put all your contact information in the show notes so people can easily find you. So thank you so much for coming on, Carol. It was great. And I know I'll have you back and we'll talk more.
Yes. And I need to have you as a guest as well, because we could like piece together enough hours of all the
I know. So many good things. So many good things. So thank you so much for coming on to How to Pivot. All right.
Thank you so much, Sharon. And I wish you the best with your new podcast. I think it's going to be super great. I can't wait to hear your other episodes.
Thanks, Carol. We'll talk soon.